Monopoly by Grit.
Welcome to Monopoly, yet another episode for Season 4. Today we are going to talk about a journey of a builder. Today we have Natasha from Orbit Homes. Thanks for joining me, Natasha.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Is Monopoly one of your favorite kids' board games?
Absolutely. I was very competitive playing this game. In fact,
Wow.
my family won't play with me anymore. Too competitive.
Any tricks which you were applying to win?
Yes, you have to buy as many houses as possible as quickly as you can.
That's right. Which is applicable for our day-to-day stuff, right?
Absolutely. It's what we do every day.
All right. So we always talk about Monopoly because that was the brainchild behind this podcast.
Makes a lot of sense. It's a good reference.
All right. So we are going to talk about a builder's journey. Most people take it for granted when they assign a builder to build a house, but there are so many things which goes in the back, which
It's a process.
it's a huge process, and a lot of people are not aware of it. So starting from signing a contract, let's talk about a normal contract as well as a fixed price contract, because I feel it gives a lot of peace for the purchaser so that they know this is what they're up for.
Absolutely, yeah. I suppose choosing the right builder is important, and it can be a bit of a challenging process for a customer, especially one who hasn't done it before, because everybody does it a little bit different.
Yeah.
So having someone to advocate for them is obviously a big help, and to kind of, go through all the processes and work out what's going to work best for them.
Yeah.
I think it's important that when you're choosing a builder that you know what's included, and making sure that what you want included is in there. Everyone has a different starting point, and then sort of layers on top of that. The difference with our product is being a turnkey fixed price contract.
Yeah.
Everything's sort of included up front, so that you know what you're getting straight away. The process to sign a contract for, I guess, a normal retail builder is that usually, depending on who you go with, about a 6 to 8 week process from when you sign your initial quotation. So a lot can change in that time frame, and including the price, I guess. And so it's important to make sure that everything's included up front. Our process is a little bit different. We provide a fixed price turnkey package with everything included. And if the clients are happy with that package, we produce a contract within 48 hours.
Yeah.
So you can, I guess, rest assured knowing that the contract that you're getting is based on the quote that you've received in a much quicker time frame, which gives a lot of peace of mind for clients.
Yeah, it's a lot of peace of mind, and also the speed, because as you said, it can take 6 to 8 weeks in a retail contract, and in the middle there can be so many other variations which coming in.
Yep.
So speed is important.
Absolutely. The process behind what we do is obviously very important, and it's critical for us to do the things that we need to do to get the job to site as quickly as possible. So without delaying the process. So once, I guess, the contracts are signed with us, depending on whether the land is ready or not, we would issue the file through our operations team and get that file ready for construction. And the journey doesn't really change. It's sort of like when things happen, I guess, depending on if the land is titled or not. But essentially, once the contracts are signed, and normally, as I said, we would issue them in about 48 hours and expect them back in sort of like 7 to 14 days. And the deposit gets paid at that time. We would then issue the file to our operations team, and they would then commence the work in to get the file ready for commencement of construction. So that starts with things like your working drawings being completed. So our contracts are issued with what we call a master plan, because our inclusions are turnkey, fixed price, everything's sort of already on those master working drawings, with the exception of maybe any upgrades the client might have made. So we would schedule out the working drawings with their name on it and any changes that they've made or upgrades that they've made. We'd prepare the formal colour documents to make the process of ordering the materials for site easier. And then we would apply for the necessary approvals. So your developer's approval application to make sure we've satisfied the design guidelines. And if the land is ready, or once the land is ready, we would order the necessary site tests. So we still need to conduct a soil report,
Yeah.
survey levels, or to the council authority information. So whether it be through the council or the water authority, an engineered slab design to build the home in accordingly. And then once we get those necessary items back, then the file is essentially getting ready for the permit application, which is your building approval.
And before you do that, the client has to put a 5% deposit. And then from that point to the construction start, that's what at the back end, that's
the back end of what's happening. So basically bridging between the contracts being signed to site start.
Yeah.
And that process can take anywhere from 9 to 12 weeks, depending on, I guess, the type of home that it is and what's involved.
Yeah.
Every council is a little bit different. So the application process can be different from council to council.
Yeah.
And that can also vary the time frame. But yeah, once all those necessary tests are done and we've applied for the building permit, essentially the building permit is a third-party independent surveyor who inspects our plans and all the necessary tests that we've done, make sure that we're complying with the building regulations, and essentially provides a stamp of approval to say you can build the house in accordance with these documents. Once we've got that back, the materials are then ordered for construction to commence in accordance with the contract.
Yeah.
And the file is then issued to site.
Right. Okay. And a lot of people worry sometimes when they go to build whether they need to take care of the permits and so forth, because when it's a single house, the builder will take care of all that entire back-end process which you just mentioned, right?
Absolutely, we do, So we, when we issue the contracts, get the necessary consent from the customer to do those applications on their behalf.
Yeah.
The only thing the client really needs to worry about is making sure they've got the essential information ready for us. So that would include obviously signing their contracts and paying their deposit.
Yeah.
Once we get that, we start the process, and then the necessary finance approval and settlement of their land.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's important. They have to settle on the land for you to do anything. And the next phase, it would be the base stage or the foundation. So just before the concrete goes in, what are the aspects are important to have in place?
Yes, so we need to get the site ready for construction to commence, absolutely. So before we can lay the slab foundation down, we need to do the underground services and prepare the site for construction. So that would include things like temporary fencing, making sure that the construction bins are delivered out on site and getting the actual site cart ready. So leveling out the block to make sure it's nice and flat for us to pour the slab.
Right, okay. And I've seen some Regiform going in. What's that? Any idea what's going on there?
What was that, sorry?
There's some Regiform boxes going in before the concrete goes in?
So that's part of the slab pour.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
The foam. Yeah, so when the slab foundation is poured, basically it's laid out in sections. They put it looks like big foam boxes to make the slab structure more sound and give it more integrity. So, and then the concrete is poured in, and then every slab can be a little bit different as well, depending on whether it requires additional piering, screw piles, and all of these things will be assessed by the engineer who, again, third-party company assessing the slab and designing it for us, and we build it in accordance with their design.
Right. Now that the foundation's in, next stage is frame.
Yep.
Where the timber posts are going in. What goes in the backs with these? Is it a matter of ordering the timber from?
Yeah, this is probably one of the quicker stages of construction. So it's not too much needed to be done other than deliver the timber out on site. So the carpenter is constructing the frame for the home. So the timber gets delivered and the roof trusses and walls are installed for the structure of the dwelling. Yeah. Depending on if it's a single story or a double story, it can vary on the length of time it takes. But they normally get them up pretty quickly.
If it's a double story, first the ground floor is done, right? And then the second story.
Absolutely. The structure is sort of done from ground up. So including underground services, we're literally working our way up.
So based on the drawings, does the carpenter do the frame and then deliver, or they come on site and do the
timber's delivered, deconstructed out on site, and it's constructed on site. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Now that the frame lay is done, and then we come to the lockup stage. What goes in the background of lockup?
Yes, lockup is essentially all your external features. So we're going to see your roof, fascia, gutters, windows all get installed.
It's probably the largest phase of
one of the more lengthy stages. Yeah, we're also doing any brickwork or external cladding, external doors. Essentially, the house needs to be locked up for
Yeah.
the stage to be completed. So if your windows and doors are not on, the stage is not done. Once it's all locked up, we can move on to the next stage, which is inside the home.
Yeah. And ideally, even the garage door should be installed.
Yes.
So when you say lock up,
Well,
from the roof as well as sometimes.
Sometimes the garage door can remain off
Yeah.
as long as the access into the home is secure. So you would normally have access from the garage into the home as long as that door is on. Then
So
we can move on. Yeah.
Even things like insulation, all that will be.
It will. Yeah.
Be done.
Yeah. So it would externally wrapping up the house.
Yeah. And then comes the fixed stage, which is more of internal fixtures.
Yep. So basically all your fixtures and fittings. So it's a bit of a process. So we start with the basically the electrical to make sure all the electrical wiring's done before we plaster the walls.
Yeah.
Once the electrical points are all wired and placed in the correct position, we put the plaster, internal plasters, and then we start to do things like the cabinetry, your robes and shower screens and so forth. So we basically do all the fixtures and fittings at that stage. And then once all the fixtures and fittings are sort of done, we waterproof the bathrooms and we then begin the tiling process. So we lay all the tiles to the wet areas and to the main living areas. And then we do the more finishing touches. So things like towards the end, we start to do paint, carpet installations, appliances and so forth.
Right.
Yeah.
And also some people think that during fixed stage or lockup, they can change things around, which is not the case. You got to really agree on everything you need.
Absolutely. Yeah. The worst thing I think a client can do for themselves is make changes during construction. And in most cases, the builder has the right to say no because depending on what stage it's requested, it can cause other implications which disrupt the process or the journey.
Yeah.
So it is really important that the client knows what they want up front. The key things that we always ask them to make sure they consider, the initial stages of their journey are things that are structural. So, your ceiling heights, your facade selection, things that really can't be changed, I guess, later on or easily themselves in, 5 years. If they're going to make cosmetic changes, like anyone can renovate a kitchen in 5 years if they want to, but you can't change the height of the ceilings.
Yeah.
Electrical's a really important one as well because once the electrical rough-ins are done, and that is done quite early in that internal lockup stage, so we want to make sure that all the power points are in the right position and things like that for, furniture placement and things like that are going to happen later on.
Yeah. And it's of best interest for both parties to agree everything up front so that everything is clear, it's black and white.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we've got a process to follow and it's in not only our best interest to follow the process, but also for the clients, with interest rates the way they are at the moment. We don't want construction to take longer than is necessary.
Yeah.
By making changes during construction, we're delaying that process, which means the clients pay their interest rates on a home they're not living in or renting out for longer. So it slows things down and costs everyone money. So we want to do things at the right stages. Yeah. And I guess that's where it's really important that, the agent that you're dealing with really communicates the process to the client so they understand kind of what happens at each stage and what the expectations are. Yeah.
Fix is done. Now we come to the final stage. What goes behind the scene there?
So the final stages of construction, we are looking at things like your driveways getting installed, fencing and landscaping is getting done. We try to do these things as close to the end of the process as possible because we want to avoid damage and theft, which can happen, of course. Even things like installing the appliances, we sort of do that like right at the last minute. But essentially we're doing really those turnkey items that the finishing touches of the home. So driveway, external landscaping and fencing, installing your roller blinds, and just those finishing touches, any paint touch-ups that we need to do that have been picked up in those quality assurance inspections.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts about, let's talk about third-party inspections. I mean, I understand as a builder, you will also engage third-party inspectors to review your own work, but then from a client's point, it's another set of eyes who's looking at it on a fresh perspective. What are your thoughts about those?
It's something that we're very accustomed to now. I mean, legally we've got to build the home in accordance with the building regulations. So the building surveyor who provides the building permit is doing those inspections at each stage to ensure that we've built the home not only in accordance with the plans that they've approved, but with the laws of construction. A third-party inspector is absolutely welcome to attend those key stages of constructions just to run an extra set of eyes over the build on behalf of the client. We hope that by the time they get through the home that that we've captured everything, but it absolutely doesn't hurt to have someone have another look through. And we work with independent inspectors all the time, so we just accommodate them into our journey, and as long as they're able to attend in a timely fashion to, again, not delay the client's process, then we're more than happy to work with them.
And with the builder's warranty, I think by law in Victoria it's only 7 years, but as a builder I think you guys give much more, is it?
That's true, so we have an obligation, as all builders do, to take out what we call a homeowner's warranty insurance policy. And this protects the structural integrity of the home for 7 years, including the process during construction. And in addition to that, we offer what we call a 25-year structural guarantee. So we're, I guess, backing ourselves as a builder who's been around for 45 years now. We believe our houses do stand the test of time, and we do back ourselves with that structural warranty.
And finally, Natasha, there was a lot of talk about NCC, which came in to builders, and then there was a whole lot of talk about it. Firstly, what is NCC and what do buyers need to be aware of, and what's going on with the new bills?
Yeah, absolutely. Very topical at the moment. So the NCC is the National Construction Code. And we had a pretty significant change come into play on the 1st of May this year. In addition to those changes, we also had to implement the new 7-star energy rating. So we've gone from 6 stars to 7. So I'll talk about them separately, but they all sort of came into play at once. So the going from 6 stars to 7 stars is about the energy rating of the home and what we need to do to achieve that energy rating. So we made some changes to our standard inclusions to get as close as possible to 7-star rating. So that includes things like going from single glaze windows to double glaze windows. We have also done upgraded insulation. We are required to install a solar panel system, which we've gone for a 3.5 kilowatt solar panel. And also the NCC changes around livable housing. So this is about, I guess, the government's incentive to kind of proof homes for the future. So we want to make sure that the homes are livable for the elderly and low care disability in a lot of ways as well. So making sure that there's really easy access into the home, bedroom and bathroom doors are wider. There's at least one toilet that has really clear access and a turning circle so that we can get a wheelchair in if needed. All the shower bases went to recess, so no hob at the bottom so that you can easily put a wheelchair in or get someone with care in there. I think I've covered a wider entry doors and things like that. So these changes, the NCC and the 7-star changes, have all come into play on the 1st of May. And we're learning a lot as we go through the process of this new requirements. And one of the things that has probably been the biggest challenge for builders is when clients either want to make changes or we're required to make changes to make them work on the site. So, for example, if a client was to convert a bedroom into a living room or a living room into a bedroom, this could impact the energy efficiency of the home because the rating is determined based on the type of room that it is, whether it's got doors, windows, and so forth. So that's one thing that could impact the 7-star efficiency. In addition to that, building on a block of land that has a higher amount of fall, so anything sort of over 500 mils can trigger additional site works. But when we start to look at, blocks that have got close to a metre or over a metre, this is where it can get really tricky because in a lot of cases in the past, we would have dropped the garage to ensure the driveway gradient was satisfactory. And now that then removes our threshold into the home for that accessible living. So then other requirements need to be done to the house to make it accessible. And I actually had one the other day that it was a block that had about a metre of fall, and I actually have to reduce the house that would normally fit on that block for a smaller house because I don't have the room. I can't drop the garage, and I actually have to move the house back to make it work to get that driveway gradient. So, it's getting more challenging for us, and we're learning a lot about this every day, but there's usually a workaround.
That's a lot of good information. That sounds like Bob the Builder, Natasha.
We're always learning something new. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm always getting challenged in new ways. So keeps it interesting.
Yeah. All right, there you go. A builder's journey, which you don't see at the back end. Hope this was useful. Feel free to watch all our episodes on Monopoly by Grit.
Monopoly by Grit.